welcome everyone to Creativity and the Paranormal, and happy Halloween season. It's the spooky season, and I am in a costume which is being emulated by the poster on the wall. Of course, you know, I'm no Audrey Hepburn, but I can emulate her, right? So anyway, I'm S.K. Andrews, and I have here today Kristin Seering, who is the podcaster for Holidays After Dark. Welcome, Kristin.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, and happy Halloween season.
Yes, happy Halloween. And I'd like to begin by a sharing of a favorite spooky mug. And this is, of course, Nightmare Before Christmas, right there. And it's done by my niece gave it to me.
One of my favorite movies of all time.
Yes, and it's the Disney Wonder Gallery, or some artist did it. Anyway, so
love it. That's a really unique style of drawing on the mug.
Yeah.
It's really, really unique. So I have a mug from an artist called the Little Spooky Studio.
Oh, how cute!
Yeah, super cute. I love their style, and I own some accessories, like makeup bag from there, things like that. And then when they started selling mugs, I was like, oh, gotta have it. So that's
called
mine.
Spooky Studio?
Little Spooky Studio, yep.
Oh, okay. Oh, I love it. Oh, I'm gonna have to check that out. Sorry, I'm gonna lower my light a little bit, but more of the ambiance, So anyway, so I am going to, now, by the way, I don't advocate smoking. It's just a prop. There's no cigarette. Okay. So
understandable.
Public service announcement here.
Sure.
I'm going to read the introduction that you have on your podcast. I got it from Spotify. So I'm just going to read this briefly, and then, of course, ask you more about how you came about doing this. So the Holidays After Dark podcast is hosted by Kristin Seering, a self-proclaimed holiday enthusiast and lover of all things gothic and strange. Kristin combines her love for the holidays and her affinity for darkness into a unique behind-the-scenes look at the mainstream holidays we all know and love. And Kristin has won 2 awards for her podcast, Holidays After Dark. The Swedish International Film Festival 2023 winner Festival Prize, Best Podcast, and the LA Sci-Fi and Horror Festival 2023 winner Leviathan Platinum Award. Forgive me, I'm learning to read in this dark room. Again, to Best Podcast, Kristin Seering. Oh my God, congratulations. Bravo.
Well, thank you. No, I appreciate you mentioning that, and I think it's really...
Go ahead.
A good thing it's not on fire, but But yeah, I think it's really cool that a lot of film festivals now are incorporating podcast genres or elements to it, because I mean, podcasting is, obviously much newer than film, but I think it's about time that it gets its recognition. And I just think it's really cool that we can all have a way to celebrate and come together. Bless you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So that is fabulous, I have to say. So obviously my first question for you is going to be, what inspired you and or motivated you, I'm just curious, to put together a podcast about the holidays we all know and love, but focusing on the paranormal or true crime or folklore, all these different things that encompass the holidays? And how did you start to do that?
Sure. So my background is in criminal justice. I actually work in law enforcement. I do computer forensics for a police department. I'm not a police officer, but I work with police officers every day.
Wow.
I have my degrees are in criminal justice and criminology. And so true crime specifically has been a huge part of my life for as long as I can remember. I always like to say I was into it before it was cool, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so through my job, actually, which can be pretty stressful, we do a lot of stuff with crimes against children and other things that are not so pleasant to deal with. I was actually talking to one of my coworkers almost 2 years ago now about ways to keep positive mental health and have a positive mindset and making positive hobbies outside of work. And I guess like
Yeah.
he always kind of got a kick out of maybe the stories that I would tell at lunch or just some of my either true crime knowledge or just
Yeah.
weird history. And so one day at lunch, he was just like, you should start a podcast. And so,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah. So I give a lot of the credit to this particular coworker. He doesn't, no longer a coworker of mine, but we're still friends. And so then I kind of got to starting thinking about it. And I've been a huge fan of podcasts for years. I was always a big listener of podcasts. I still am. And so I was attracted to the idea just because I thought that, oh, joining the podcast community could be cool. And then I was starting to think, okay, what would my podcast be about? So I kind of took my two greatest loves in life, which is one, holidays. I've been obsessed, beyond obsessed with holidays, especially Halloween and Christmas, but all holidays since I was a kid, as I'm sure you can relate.
Yes.
I mean, my parents tell all these stories about how I would cry every single time every holiday ended. And, it was
Oh,
it was the end of the world every time. So I knew I wanted to do a holiday podcast, but then I wanted to do something different just because there are already quite a few Christmas and holiday podcasts out there. So then I kind of took my true crime, lover of all things dark and weird and gothic sense and kind of combined the two. And that's how I got Holidays After Dark. So like let's not just look at the holiday itself, but try to find
yeah.
things about it that people might not know. And so I've been doing it it'll be 2 years in February. And it's been a great mental health outlet ever since.
Oh, definitely. And I have to say, because I've been, listening to it now, I haven't heard every single one. I'm catching up. I'm going to go back, because I just
Sure.
heard you a few months ago. And they're just the ones I've heard, though, I mean, are just fabulous. And you have it so, I know it's professional, but I'm just going to say so professionally set up, because you'll mention something and then you'll have this perfect musical interlude that just goes right, is perfect flow into the next segment or something. And I'm like, oh my God, that was a perfect piece of music. And it just flowed right perfectly after what you said. And so that's the production value, right?
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you mentioning that. So I actually do not edit my own podcast. My sister edits my podcast. She's a professional in the film world, and so she knows all
Yeah.
about that kind of stuff. And so if I was left to do it on my own, it would be a feat because I know nothing about that. So I do pick the music. I use a website called Upbeat, which you can pay a minimal subscription fee. It's actually pretty reasonable. And then it gives you access to just catalog after catalog of independent artist music. And by paying the subscription fee, the
Oh,
artists then get paid when you use their song, and you don't have to worry about like all the copyright stuff if I was just pulling in, mainstream music from the radio or something. And I've been
yes, yes.
yeah, so I've been really happy with their service, highly recommend it. But yeah, I just after I, record an episode, I just kind of sit with it, listen to it back, and then I go on Upbeat and try to visualize what song would fit in each portion, just like you said, to keep the flow going and
Uh-huh.
keep everyone in the mood.
Yeah, and it's working beautifully. Also, now I have to ask, if this is going to be a very hard question, I have to admit. So, what is your favorite Christmas holiday movie and your favorite Halloween holiday movie?
Okay, so that is a hard question.
Yeah.
One of the things that's hardest about it is deciding whether or not Nightmare Before Christmas is a Halloween or a Christmas movie, which I still Yeah, I'm like, I still can't decide. I've been asked that question so many times about which one it is. I consider it to be both.
Yeah.
I do think I find myself watching it more around Halloween. So I would probably say that that's my favorite Halloween movie, if I really had to pick. And then Christmas, I'm a huge sucker for the Santa Claus with Tim Allen.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, that was like a staple of my
Yeah.
childhood. I'm a big Elf fan.
Mhm.
I love all the old animated classics like Rudolph and The Year Without a Santa
Yeah.
Claus. Um, but on both holidays, I mean, I just watch endless horror movies. Coraline is one of my favorite movies that
Oh yeah.
even though it's not like holiday specific, I do find myself watching it more around Halloween time. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it is a tough one, but if I had to pick, I would say Nightmare Before Christmas and the Santa Claus.
Okay, well, those are some of my favorites as well.
Nice.
So I mean, I'm just gonna throw it out. I just thought of it. For Christmas, the musical Scrooge with Albert Finney that was from 1972, that
Hmm.
has just got to be my top favorite. But yeah, and
Yeah.
then Nightmare Before Christmas for Halloween.
Oh, sure.
I love both Goosebumps movies too. R.L. Stein, the Goosebumps with Jack Black.
Yeah. So
Those.
I actually need to watch the movies. I've never seen the movies, but I grew up surrounded by the books and seeing them in
Okay.
the library all the time. But I
Oh yeah,
don't know that yeah.
yeah, you'll love the movies, and R.L. Stein makes a cameo in each one.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
it was
nice.
given his stamp of approval. Jack Black plays him fabulously. Yeah, so that's something to look forward to this season.
Oh,
I
for sure.
recommend. I recommend.
I'm always looking for new stuff. So
Oh yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, now this is my favorite one. I don't mean to be, but I ask everyone, and if your answer is no, that's fine. And maybe if you know someone else, have you ever seen a ghost or had your own strange experience?
Sure. So I don't know that I've ever actually seen a ghost. I have, however, had experiences that I kind of attribute maybe to the spirit world. So I'm a big fan of like going on ghost tours when I go to cities.
Oh yeah.
Salem, I'm going to New Orleans soon, so I'm planning on doing one there. I've done them all over the country. I've never had any like experiences on any of those tours besides like, maybe feelings of energy. I do consider myself very sensitive to energy, very sensitive to people's energies. So that's
Yeah.
something that I can easily kind of pick up on. But the actual experiences that I've had have all related back to my cat who passed away. So,
Oh.
so I had a cat named Jack after Jack Skellington.
Yeah.
It was a girl, even that's because when the boy that gave her to me when I was in middle school told me that she was a girl or that she was a boy, and so I named her Jack, and then I took her to the vet, and the vet was like, "No, it's a girl," but I just kept the name. So
Oh,
anyway,
okay.
that's how
Yeah.
we get Jack the girl. But anyway, Jack lived to be 14 and she passed away in 2020. Kind
I'm
of out
sorry.
Oh, well, thank you. Unexpectedly out of nowhere. But she had been with me, since I was in middle school and now I was, almost 30 when she died. So it was a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
And she never left my parents' house. So when I got her, obviously as a teenager, she lived there. And then I, kind of moved all over the country for a few years. She had a lot of anxiety, so she stayed at my parents' house. So
Oh, okay.
then I moved back to the St. Louis area. She dies like 8 months later, and she had never actually physically been in my apartment. She only ever was at my parents' house. However, at my apartment, shortly after she died, one time I was like getting ready to take a shower or something, and I walked past my bed and I noticed that perfectly laying on my one pillowcase on my bed was a whisker that was an exact an exact Jack whisker, because when she used to lose them we would find them all the time, and I knew exactly what it was. And I'm
Oh my
also the
God.
first, yeah, I'm also the first person who's ever lived in my apartment. It's new construction. So I
Oh,
know that, yeah, so I know that no cat has ever lived here. And I had
wow.
only lived in this apartment for like a few weeks when she died. And so
Oh,
it's not even like this whisker was like jumbled up in a blanket that maybe could have transferred over. It just like out of nowhere
yeah.
was perfectly placed on the pillowcase. And so I texted my mom because my mom had actually been over at my apartment like the day before. And I was like, "Hey, are you trying to play like a cute little joke of like of like I'm gonna leave,
Toaster.
yeah, like I'm gonna leave a little whisker just to like make me
Oh,
less sad." And she was like, "What are you talking about? Like no, like I wouldn't go that far to like
oh
make
my
you feel
gosh.
better." And so I do kind of attribute
Yeah.
maybe the little ghost of Jack was crawling around on my bed and maybe a little whisker fell off. And then a couple weeks later, same apartment, I was hanging out with, actually my mom was over, and while we were hanging out, a friend of mine arrived. And so when he came in the door, all of a sudden this snow globe that I had sitting on my end table next to my couch, I it apparently like shattered, but no one touched it,
Oh no.
and nothing, like the table was not bumped. No, there wasn't an earthquake. But I'm sitting there after he came in, and I start hearing this dripping water, and I look over,
Gosh.
and the snow globe had shattered and was dripping water onto the floor. And the reason why I think
Wow.
that's connected to my cat is because she always used to sit on the end tables next to our couch. And so
Oh, okay.
it would have been like her perfect spot. And so my theory is that again, the
Oh.
ghost of Jack was sitting on the end table, and then when my friend walked in, it spooked her, and when she jumped off,
Oh.
it shattered the. And again, I know that people could
Yeah.
argue that it was coincidence and that the whisker was coincidence, but at least in my state of
No.
grieving at the time, those little things made me feel better. And like nothing is, it's been a couple years now, nothing has happened since, but it was just very
Yeah.
coincidental that right after she died, maybe when souls are kind of in that purgatory state or trying to make the transition, that
Limbo.
that those things happened. So
Wow. No, that's amazing. I mean,
yeah,
oh my God, to find a whisker and yeah, if
yeah,
a cat's jumping off, your snow globe would fall or something.
right.
And I don't think those things just
Yeah. So yeah,
explode on
all
their
my
own.
I know. I'm like, it was very, very odd. But yeah,
Oh
so all my
wow.
paranormal has been related back to animals, my one animal experience. I've never had any human experiences, but I'm always like very open to it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm certainly not like, I'm not a full believer in ghosts, but I'm also not a non-believer. So I'm always like, hey, I would love to be proven right and have some sort of, positive experience, hopefully. But yeah.
Yes. No, I think I mean I'm just saying from what your story uh tells. I can't tell. We like to keep it real on creativity in the paranormal. We don't want to be
Hey,
too overly rehearsed.
yeah, always.
But so no, from what you said about your story, it feels like maybe Jack wanted to welcome you to your new home and say hello, because she wasn't with you when she passed, right? That's just
Right.
my theory.
Yeah, no, I never even got to say goodbye or anything
Oh,
because of, especially with the way the vets were operating, like during the pandemic, because it was during the heat of the
oh
pandemic.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
pretty much when wasn't even the one that took her there, but when my dad did take her there, from what I know, it was basically we meet you in the parking lot, you hand us your animal, and then you never see them again unless they come home. Like they weren't letting people really go in and stuff.
yeah.
So yeah, we definitely did not, I did not have any closure to the situation. It was just kind of one day she's alive and now she's gone sort of thing. And so I kind of like to think that that was, her way of wrapping things up
Yeah,
between
she
us.
gave you closure.
Yeah, exactly.
Back in 2017, right before I came out here to New York, I was living with my sister in Northern California by San Francisco, and my kitty cat Simba died of 17 years. And
Oh,
I know. So we did it on a Sunday. And when I came home, that night when I went to bed, I'm in bed, and he used to sit asleep on the bed at the end of the bed by my leg. And I felt him there, but there was nothing there.
yeah. Oh, I
And
love
I
that.
felt him the second night, and then after that I didn't feel him anymore. But
Yeah.
so he was saying goodbye.
Yeah, that's sad. I'm sorry, but I do
Oh,
like that you got to have that experience though.
yeah, yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you, what advice would you give to aspiring podcasters, like someone who wants to start their own podcast in this type of area or paranormal or maybe any type of area? I mean, we're not doing investment banking podcast or anything, but what advice would you give for someone starting out with that?
Yeah, so I would say like definitely take your time getting into it. Like don't feel like, "Oh, I came up with this idea, let's record the first episode tomorrow." Like I would say take your
Yeah.
time, get your ducks in a row. Like I thought of the idea in like November 2021 and I did not release my first episode until February of 2022 because I wanted to, purchase the domain name of Holidays After Dark so that you don't start it and then realize that you're either stepping on someone else's toes or that someone swoops in and steals your brand name. You want to make sure that you get your social media profiles in order because, again, you want to be able to claim those names for your brand
Mhm.
and make sure that they're available and that you can do so. You want to make sure that
Yeah.
you have your idea very solidified. Because I think that in order to attract an audience, you kind of need to have a set idea and not just let's wing it every week and see what we talk
Yeah.
about because then
Yeah.
it's good people are going to be all over the place.
Right.
My episodes are scripted and so I had to have time to, write the episodes, get the ideas laid out. So just kind of like take a beat, get everything together and then
Yeah.
that'll save you a lot of stress when the time actually comes to start putting out episodes because once you start putting out episodes your main focus is going to need to be on promotion. And so
Yeah.
you don't want to be bogged down with all the other nitty-gritty stuff like making your website and figuring out how to distribute your podcast. You just want to figure out how to get at that point you should just be getting the word out and that should be pretty much your only job. So just, take a minute, come up with something that you really enjoy too because it's a lot of work and you don't want
Yeah.
it to feel like a second job. You want it to feel like a fun hobby. I mean,
Yes.
there are so many times where I'll mention to my coworkers, like, oh, I need to go home and work on the podcast. And like one of them is always like, man, that sounds like homework. Like that sounds too much like homework. And I'm like, well, yeah, and it is homework, but it's self-imposed homework and it's really fun. Whereas if it
Yeah.
wasn't fun, then I wouldn't do it. So
Yeah.
definitely pick something that you are very interested in and passionate about because then other people are going to be able to pick up on your passion and that's going to make them want to listen.
Yes. Very good words of advice. And I'm from an acting background too, and now I'm doing paranormal fiction writing. But as you can tell, I love acting. But I remember one of my co-actors years ago, like back in college, said, acting and creativity is the hardest fun I ever had. And I'm
Uh,
like, that's a good way to describe it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it is a lot of work, but then when you see
Yes.
the end product and you see how people respond to it, and I mean, honestly, some of the most rewarding parts of it for me have been forming the community that I've formed with other
Uh,
podcasters. Like the
yeah.
podcasting community turns out is very welcoming, very willing to help. I'm in, like a Christmas podcasters group and just a general podcasters
Yes.
group. And I kind of thought that people were going to be more like competitive about it, like who has the most listens, who has the most subscribers, but it's not like that at all from my experience. So it's just been great meeting new friends and talking to people from all around the world and,
Yeah.
doing interviews with people like you, it's just a super fun experience. So
Well, also on that note, I listened to one of your last ones about you went to the Christmas con and it was in Kansas City, or so you said you could go because it was near you. And you know what I'm going to say, the Deck the Hallmark guys recognized you before you could even introduce yourself and came out and give you a hug and everything.
yes, which that was like one of the best moments of my life because I am like a day one fan of their podcast, like been
Yeah,
listening to them every day since 2018. And so
they're fun. They're funny.
yeah, to me at this point, they felt like full-blown celebrities to me
Yeah,
because I felt like I knew them, like I've known
yeah,
everything about their lives for the past handful of
right.
years. Um, so it was, and then so I knew we had some online interactions, we had emailed a little bit, but I had no idea if they would actually know who I am before I told them because I don't really put my face with the podcast a lot.
Mm,
And so it was just a super cool moment. And yeah,
yeah,
they were just as amazing in person as they are online. And they can get me laughing even if I'm in the darkest mood
yeah,
or whatever the situation is. So
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. So I wanted to, well, actually, you kind of answered my question. I was going to say, this is optional, actually. What would you say to people if they're starting out or trying to do their podcast or creativity and there's naysayers around, or, you know, like even if it's someone that's close to them, no names or anything, or just, you know, how they deal with negative comments online and stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think a lot
It's
of it
just
is
a
just
reality.
oh, absolutely. I mean, you can't do anything in the creative world, whether it's, acting, like you mentioned, or music, or whatever your thing is. You're always going to have someone who, and they're probably just, talking down on you for the sake of talking down. They probably even never even listened to an episode. They're just out there
Yeah,
trolling the internet. But
right.
you just have to, I think you really have to be doing it for yourself and not for other people ultimately, because
Yes.
at the end of the day, you don't want to just be chasing approval or chasing the numbers. Or there was,
Yeah.
like you said, no names, but there was a particular person in my life. He's not really a part of my life anymore for other reasons, but he was just always asking me, like, have you made money yet? Have you made money yet? Have you made
Oh,
money yet? And it's like, I'm not in this to make money.
yeah.
And if you're podcasting to make money, you're probably in the wrong business, because
Yeah.
very few of us make substantial money, and I certainly don't. But that's not what motivates me. What motivates me is having fun and
Mm.
doing something creative and having an outlet. And so I think as long as you stay true to that, you just have to ignore everyone else. And guess what?
Yeah.
They don't have a podcast. They don't have something cool. So they're
Right.
probably either jealous or just a petty person. So
Yeah.
just, brush it off, stay true to you and your motivations, and all the people in your life who truly care about you and support you will
Yes.
continue to do so.
Exactly. That's what I keep hearing. I get into sort of the metaphysical, you know, stuff as well, like Hay House radio and stuff like that. And they say as you progress in your creative success, let's say, or expression or whatever, um, build your support group, the people
Hmm.
around you, you know. So
Oh yeah.
that's
And
always a good thing.
I think when you do anything in life, like whether it's a new job or moving to a new city or whatever, like I used to also live in California, but on the southern on the southern end.
I'm from
And
Laguna Beach.
oh, nice. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love Laguna Beach. Yeah, I lived
Yeah.
in LA for a few years. And, when I moved to LA from St. Louis, it definitely taught me like who my true friends are.
Oh, really?
Because I mean, the people who it turns out it was just situational friendship, it was like out of sight, out of mind, never heard
Okay.
from them again. Whereas
Yeah.
then I had, another friendship or two that actually got like stronger when I moved away because they genuinely missed me and genuinely
Oh,
wanted to maintain. So it's kind of
yeah.
the same way with podcasting or any other endeavor. When you do something that's kind of optional for people to choose whether they support it or not, to me, it has definitely shown me, who really is supportive of the things that I do. And
Yes.
I'm all about, having genuine people in my life and also being genuine in return. And so it's been very heartwarming to just see
Yeah.
that and experience it.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. I mean, I'm in the process of doing that too. But now I have to ask you, now you come up with all these wonderful, stories, and like I said, true crime or folklore or supernatural about all the different holidays. Is there something new that you want to add to that, or are you just continuing to, because your well of stories around the holidays, I think, is endless. I mean, it's endless. You're always going to discover new things, even, but is there anything new you're going to add to it, or just keep going?
Yeah, I mean, so the Halloween and Christmas seasons are definitely the busiest for me,
Yeah,
obviously. I
I'm lucky to have you on here.
no worries. I'm so happy that you reached out, and I'm so happy to be here. But yeah, definitely the busiest for me, but busiest in a good way, because there's just, like you said, endless content this time of year. Sometimes, in March or August, I look around and I'm like, man, there are just no holidays.
Yeah.
What's going on? But it's just
Yeah.
so nice how easy it is and how easy the information flows this time of year.
Oh,
I'm definitely planning on doing, some more interviews, maybe hopping on a few other podcasts that are to be determined
yeah.
at this point. As far as my own, I've never branched out into doing interviews on my own podcast, but I think, especially as I'm going into year 2, I think it's going to be something that I really kind of want to do and want to focus
Oh,
on, and
right.
maybe try and see how it goes type thing. I kind of got, stuck in my ways with my format, just because I was trying to get my feet under me and get used to it and whatever.
Listen,
But I
great
am kind of,
format. Don't get me wrong.
well, thank you. But I am kind of getting that itch to occasionally, do some interviews or whatever. So I may even be, reaching out to have you as a potential
Well,
guest. So
I heard your one about Krampus, and my second book in my series is about the psychic woman who, the Kelly Society. I'm sorry, I just have to say it. The Kelly Society is the fictional supernatural cleansing team that she's the uber psychic, and it's like there's her Scooby Gang, right? And
sure.
they're in Half Moon Bay, California. Well, the whole thing is she has to save her friend, a high school kid who's the barista at the coffee house in her little town, Half Moon Bay, from Krampus the Christmas demon in
No,
Christmas. And she
I
is
think it
just, you know. So it's really fun. It's like really Christmassy too. I put all the fun stuff in there. When she's in the coffee house, she hears all the, Peggy Lee playing I Love the Sleigh Ride song and all this stuff. But then she also has to combat Krampus.
no, I mean, I think it sounds like a perfect collaboration. So if you're open to it,
Yeah.
definitely stay tuned. And I think it'd be really fun.
Yeah, in a future time. So okay, last question. So yesterday I actually talked to the Portland, and there's a reason why I'm saying this. The Portland Ghostbusters franchise. It's a charity group up there in Portland, Oregon. And they've been around since 2012. They do all kinds of, charity events, this and that. And so, of course, I know what they're going to be dressed up as for Halloween. But I want to ask you, what is your Halloween costume going to be this year?
Oh, so that's a hard one for me. I hate to admit it. I feel like this takes away my Halloween credibility card, but I actually have not dressed up for Halloween in a few years. So I used to work at Hot Topic, the store in the
Oh, love
mall. That was my high
it. Yeah.
school, college, grad school job. And during October, we had to dress up for every single shift that we worked, and it had to be different costumes. So there was a
Oh,
period of 6 years where I hate to say it, but I almost got overloaded with dressing up for Christmas. And then now in my true adult life, I've been a complete slacker when it comes to dressing up for Halloween. Um, but
but you
I
have a great backdrop.
yeah, I was gonna say I feel like I should. I just need a good reason to, but My
Yeah.
Halloween decor is always on point. My apartment is always extremely decorated. Don't get me wrong, like I definitely celebrate.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I've been, I have a like kind of cool like cat costume with these really cool cat ears. I've had, the whole prisoner cop thing. I mean, as a kid, I absolutely loved dressing up for Halloween. I would kind of rotate between something scary and then something cuter. I have the
Yeah.
whole witch thing. Um, but
Right.
yeah, I need to figure something out. But do you have any ideas for this year?
Um, well, I don't have like a Halloween party to go to. Last year, me and my sisters, we all went to Salem. So we were at
Mm-hmm.
the Haunted Speakeasy. It's really fun. If you ever want to go to that party, oh my God, it was so much fun. They had a live band, and it was 20s music, but it was also modern music, and
Sure.
everyone was dressed up. So this year, I guess I'm going to be doing it through my videos.
Hey,
The
that
next
works.
one, I also have an outfit for Morrigan, the Celtic goddess of war, because
Okay.
she shows up in the first book of mine that I write in the series. Because my psychic character, her past life was Boudica, Celtic warrior queen.
Okay.
So she channels the whole Celtic thing. So the goddess of war comes to help her out with something. So I have the gold thing and sort of black, and I did the best I could. But Morrigan, she is very specific, and
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah, I've been to Salem twice, but never during the Halloween season. So that's definitely like bucket list item for me. And I'm hoping to maybe do it sometime in the next few years. So definitely check
yeah.
that out.
It's gotten even busier from when I went back in 2009, and I mean,
Hmm.
one of the fellow authors I'm in with the Wild Rose Press, she actually lives there with her family. She's a tour guide at the Witch House.
Oh,
And her
nice.
husband is a tour guide at the House of Seven Gables. So,
Okay.
but she said ever since the pandemic, it's been just gridlock over there. And it was, I mean, it's still really fun, but it's like we waited an hour just to get into lunch in one of the restaurants. The one that we went to before that, they didn't even have a waiting list. They were full the whole rest of the afternoon. We're like, we're
Oh,
hungry.
wow.
But
Wow.
and it didn't used to be like that in 2009.
Yeah.
But that was as it gets closer to Halloween, farther in October.
Yeah.
So, earlier is good too. And I think September they have all the spooky stuff still going on and everything.
Well, yeah,
So I think
exactly.
it's all year round.
Yeah, I've been in May and August, and it
Yeah.
was it was, enough people, but definitely still chill. But sometime I'm just gonna have to brave the crowds and do it because it's a once in a lifetime experience, I feel.
Oh God, yes. And don't let me talk it down at all. No, it was still fabulous. I would do it 100 times.
Sure.
But I'm so thrilled you're going to New Orleans.
Yes.
I will have to. I'm sorry, hang on. I've got the air conditioning on. I know it's supposed to be Halloween, but we had to tape this in August, you all. I just let the cat out of the bag. So I have some wind coming at me. I mean, these things don't move on their own. There would be a ghost in here, right? Anyway, so God, Kristin, thank you so much for doing this and being here on Creativity in the Paranormal.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This was super fun, and yeah, definitely gets me in the Halloween spirit for sure.
Yes. And I'm honored to have a two-time award-winning podcaster on my YouTube channel. I mean,
Well,
that's
thank
fabulous.
you.
So
Thank
I
you.
I just want to say happy Halloween to everybody out there, and have a great Halloween season. Make it spooky.
Happy
Okay.
Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Bye, everybody.